told me, Emma, being a professional is not being at the top of your class and getting straight A's. Being professional is how you show up in your work. Do you know what the heck you're doing? Do you believe in it? And do you show up like you mean it? That is what being a professional means. She reminded me about, my commitment to the military, because after I graduated, I was going to be going into the service as a second lieutenant. I did go on active duty, and the branch that I assessed into was the chemical corps. And my biology degree actually came in very handy as far as the chemical corps. It's a technical skill, being a subject matter expert in CBRN. So Chem Bio Rad Nuke is what CBRN stands for. And that was my subject of expertise when I was in the military. I was already doing training programs even then, because my business as the chemical officer was to be aware of those type of risk exposures within the environment that our unit might encounter. And when and if there was those type of threat exposures, then they needed to know how to use their equipment. They needed to continue to be able to operate and do the mission even with protective gear on. They needed to know what to do to mitigate the risk, if there was any way to mitigate it as far as time or space or whatnot. If they could still execute the mission and just delay it for a day or go a different way as far as their route, that it was my business to tell them how to mitigate these environmental risks. But I never intended to spend 20 years in the military. But as I was, doing it, I continued to believe in it, and I was good at it. And so I kept getting opportunities to advance in my career. And I intended after I got to the 10-year mark or so, it's like, you got to make a decision. I'm going to do this for the long haul. I'm going to get out now. And I decided, you know what, I like this. And, I had objectives as far as I wanted to, maybe before I retired, I wanted to be an ROTC professor of military science. And you do that when you're a lieutenant colonel. It's like, okay, I want to do that. I want to teach cadets at the university level. So that was kind of my objective, was I'm gonna serve until lieutenant colonel. I'm gonna retire after that. I want to do this job, being a PMS. But I didn't get that far. I retired as a major, just short of 18 years on active duty, because the government decided to downsize our military. And so the Chemical Corps is literally the smallest branch in the Army other than Special Forces. You cannot assess directly into Special Forces. Chemical Corps is the smallest branch that you can directly assess into. And so when the downsize happened, my opportunities became very, very few. Despite my success, there were just too many lieutenant colonels in the branch. I found this out later on. They weren't picking up as many lieutenant colonels because they were over strength at lieutenant colonels, had been for years. So there were people sitting in spots that they just needed to retire, move on, make room for us, but it was too late. But part of the reason why I'm so passionate about this work that I do for supporting people in transition is because that I was not ready. I was not ready for my career to end when it did. I was 2.5 years, 3 years short of when I thought I was going to retire. I did retire because they put in a temporary authority for early retirement that I met all the eligibility criteria in order to retire with less than 20 years in. And so this whole idea of being ready, despite the fact that I was not ready, neither was my husband. We didn't have a plan that was ready to execute off the shelf. Despite all of it, we got on to the next thing without any of it being an epic failure. And I routinely have this way of thinking to where I'm always looking at what happened, good or bad. Was it me? Was it things I couldn't control? Whatever. And because of this way of thinking that I have, it's actually the postcard that is right here, the paradigm this is the way I think. It's a puzzle paradigm. And being a chemical officer actually helps in this, because I'm always looking out at what's invisible in the environment, that even if you don't know and acknowledge, it can still hurt you, it can still kill you, it can still mess up your day or whatever your plan is, because you need to even acknowledge those things. And in life, those invisible things are other people, what they think, what they do, invisible things that have to do with the environment, and just even things like the food you eat, and how you or don't care about your health, right? All of those things are invisible exposures in the environment, and I have gotten used to thinking about all this. And so the paradigm is actually part of the way that we I designed the program. You got to be able to think internally as far as who you are, what you're about, but you also have to think about the environment that you are showing up in, because you are not doing life by yourself. If you do, good luck with that. It'll take you freaking forever to get anywhere. You do things efficiently and more successfully because you're doing it with other people.